Larry's now 6 and in full health now, but at 5 months old, we left him with a pet sitter. And he was mauled. His injuries were quite excessive. He was left for dead, more or less. So, look, he had about 6 surgeries to save his eye and reconstruct his head. Most of his teeth are gone, his upper left teeth. Most of the bottom ones are gone. They all had to be removed. We would buy food, and a lot of it he wasn't eating. So I thought I'll make him some food, and would make him, your standard chicken and throw some veggies in, and then that grew. He loved it, and it was soft. He could eat it, and then he just started to get better. We just noticed he was slowly, day by day, getting better. He was getting healthier and happier, and he was smiling again. His fur started growing back, and we took him in for his checkups, and they were really happy with his progress. They more or less just said, keep doing what you're doing.
Hi, mums and dads. We're here today with Aaron from Larry's Lunch, and we're going to be talking all things raw and fresh feeding, fresh ingredients, all the fun things to make your puppas as healthy as possible and live forever. Wouldn't that be nice? Welcome. Thanks for coming.
No. Thank you, Sherry. I really appreciate you having me. It's an absolute honor.
Not a problem. As I was just saying off camera, love your content, love your whole vibe. It's just so educational, informative. I think it's exactly what pet parents need to be seeing. In Australia, there's not a whole lot of it out there at this point. So, yeah, just keep doing it, man.
Yeah, look, thank you. Thank you. A lot of people struggle to make informative decisions on their own health, let alone their dog's health. So we're so far from where we need to be as a pet community or as dog communities. I think pets in general, it's not just dogs. I mean, it still seems so outdated that you walk into a pet shop and there are walls and walls of dry kibble. And it makes no sense that's normal, and I think maybe once upon a time it did make sense, to be honest, I don't think it ever did make sense. I think it was a very much a marketing aspect or a marketing tool that somebody came up with in early days and went, well, this is sort of, going to make life easier because dogs are seen as family members back in the day. They were either working dogs or pets. So it was how do we offer something for your pet cheap and easy. And I think that trend's gone. I think it's well and truly gone. I think the joke's over, and I think now we need to be more conscious of what we're feeding our dog, and we need to be real about the situation that we're in. And I'm constantly hearing online, Sherry, people saying, my dog lived to 14, and what more do you expect? It lived to 14 and ate kibble. What comparison are we going off here?
I know.
I don't understand. It's you're comparing, your dog living to 14 on kibble and trying to justify that was a good life. And I had a conversation with one lady online, and she was saying, well, my dog lived to 17. What more do you expect? And it's absolutely ridiculous that you think dogs should live longer. I don't think it is. I don't think we have any indication yet on how long a dog should live for, because for the last 100 years, 80% of dogs have lived on kibble, and humans haven't. Humans haven't lived on processed food for 100 years, and the average age of a human isn't based on if that person ate McDonald's every day.
That's the comparison I use
And I feel like
all the time. I tell people, do you have children? Yes. Would you let them have McDonald's or KFC every night of the week? Oh, absolutely not. Well, that's what you're doing to your dog or your cat or what they don't get. Yeah, your last dog might have lived till 15 or 17 or what have you. And that's great, but it's not about how long they live. How healthy were they? How happy were they? How active and comfortable were they?
how was their mindset? A lot of these questions are still unanswered. And if you just want to get to the basics, so if we were to just go with the most common remark, and that is, oh, my dog lived for X amount. All right, fantastic. Let's stick with that for 1 minute, right? Let's not worry about comfortability, mindset, health, thriving. So people are so far from even having those conversations. I think from what I'm understanding, what I'm seeing from people, a lot of people don't even have an understanding that dogs have those feelings, emotions, and uncomfortabilities too. They're so stuck in a mindset that keeping the dog alive is all the dog needs. So if you want to talk about life expectancy, 14 years, all right, might be great. But how about we take and remove kibble for the next 100 years, and let's just feed dogs fresh whole foods. Doesn't have to be premium, but let's just take processed food away. Or even, and then let's see what the average life of a dog is then. And people, to me, don't want to sort of have that conversation first before even trying, dog having diarrhea. It's like I've seen a million dogs in the park have diarrhea, and the owners don't care. The minute my daughter has diarrhea, I'm stressed. We're worried. Has she got gastro? I don't put her back in her cot and say, she's fine. Right?
Exactly.
So the reality is that that dog may be uncomfortable. That dog may have IBS. It might have a million other issues going on in its life. I don't know. A lot of owners aren't even in the headspace of feeling like, is that dog uncomfortable? Is that dog sick? Is that dog sleeping 12 hours a day because it's uncomfortable? We don't know, but what we do know is fresh whole foods is going to give your dog a better chance at having a comfortable, healthier life. It's not worry about how long the dog can live for, because we could all be hit by a bus tomorrow. We're not trying to achieve, the longest living dog in the world. We're trying to achieve day by day comfortability, thriving dogs, healthy, energetic, balanced dogs that can, get what they deserve. And that's where I want to start, is on day one, or year 15 of how long my dog lived for. That's not a conversation that I'm worried about right now. It's like we need to get the day-to-day routines right with dogs, feeding times, feeding portions. And that's another thing too, Sherry, feeding portions. I'm baffled when, people buy food for their dog and they pour a bag of kibble into a bowl and give it to their dog. Overeating is so bad. It is so bad, and dogs don't know where to stop, and
Right.
they make themselves sick. And so there are layers upon layers upon layers about why there needs to be more education and stricter rules around how you look after your pets. And I think the world is moving toward that. I don't think we're even remotely close, but I think the great thing is we're off to a good start.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could not agree more. I mean, I've had dog service businesses for years in Melbourne. I did walking, I did daycare, grooming, you name it. And the number of overweight dogs that came through my doors, and it was always an uphill battle trying to educate owners about all of the risks that they were taking with that dog's health. I mean, joint problems, heart problems, the list just goes on and on and on. And the other advantage I've found too, besides the obvious health benefits in feeding raw or fresh or however you choose to do things, they don't need to eat as much because it's not full of fillers, because it's so nutrient dense and so wholesome.
Yeah.
They don't need to eat as much,
Yeah.
but they're still super full and their weight's perfect. I don't
Right.
understand why people
Yeah,
don't see it.
well, this is where we have to be fair, and a lot of people just don't know and don't understand. And I think that's where I would like to sort of live in that headspace of, okay, let's not get defensive and let's not get angry. Let's get educational, because people don't know, and you only know what you only know. And so I've had to take that into my mantra and try and really work with that, because it does become frustrating when you see things that you don't agree with and you think, well, how do you not know that? How do you not know that? And how would they know that when 95% of dog parents are walking into Pet Barn and they're being sold kibble, and the person selling the kibble has no idea what it's about, and there's nobody there to help? And you think about this from a food chain perspective. Now, there's always, I guess, some level of information available when you're, purchasing your food for yourself, whether it be where it was cooked, how it was cooked. I mean, I can give you an example, just as an example. If you went to a restaurant and you wanted to order a steak, and you asked the waitress, where was the steak cut, what line of beef is it? The waitress may not know, but she could probably go to the chef, and the chef might know. If the chef doesn't know, he'd be able to call his supplier and find out. Maybe not instantaneously, but there's a line of command and people can find out. You don't have that same ability when you walk into a pet store. Where's the kibble made? How long's it been sitting on the shelf? There's nobody there to actually answer the questions. And I think people know that walking in, they're not prepared to ask the questions. And if they are, they'll get an answer that sort of is semi-okay. But if you were to walk into a pet store tomorrow and ask the person there, hey, listen, where are these made? What are these done? Where's it come from? What's the beef? No one's going to know. But if you go into the beef section at Coles, there's an opportunity there to at least self-educate in the moment. And I feel like these are comparisons with buying food for ourselves and buying food for our dog. It is so different. Like, I feel like I've never walked into Coles to pick up, if, I don't know, I'm doing steak and veg for dinner. I've never picked up the steak and not had a clear understanding of what that steak is and how fresh it was when it cooked, when it's going to expire, the cut of beef. And these are examples. And I feel like, it's the comparison of if you had to go and shop in the chip aisle, you're going to be in the same boat as a pet parent. You're not going to have any idea. And so if you're not able to educate yourself on what you're purchasing, I feel like that's not entirely the consumer's fault because, they've been trained to just feel like it's safe, it's normal. You can come in and buy
Yeah.
this kibble because it's okay, we're selling it. But they're also selling things at other stores that we know as humans are not okay. But why are the pet stores allowed and having that, instilling that different confidence in people when they're purchasing? And that to me is baffling, and I still
Yeah.
can't get my head around it. I really feel like we know as parents, and I'm a parent myself, is that when your child walks into that lolly aisle or the chip aisle, you know that there's no way we're having this for dinner. We're not having it for dinner. You might have it once a week or whatever it is. I don't know. But you walk into a pet store, it's like that same thing, but you pick up a 20-kilo bag and you walk home and you feed that to your dog for the next month. And it's just, it's mind baffling. I can't get my mind around it.
Me neither. Me neither.
It's just hard.
I know. I know. So tell me a little bit more about Larry's story and where your fresh feeding journey started. He actually got attacked
Yeah.
by the dog at the park, didn't he?
Yeah. No, not the pup. No. So Larry's now 6, and Larry's in full health now. But at 5 months old, we left him with a pet sitter. We had to visit our family interstate. We left him with a pet sitter, and he was mauled. We got a phone call, more or less telling us to get back to Melbourne because they didn't think he was going to make it. The pet sitter dumped him at the vet hospital and took off, and that was a whole saga. But his injuries were quite excessive. His skull was crushed. His eye was crushed. His jaw was ripped. He had
Oh,
he had bite marks on his left shoulder. He was left for dead, more or less. So, look, he had about 6 surgeries to save his eye and reconstruct his head. Lauren, my wife, and I put our life savings into keeping him alive. That journey went on for months and months and months. I mean, he had multiple eye surgeries. He had most of his teeth are gone, his upper left teeth. Most of the bottom ones are gone. They all had to be removed. So they more or less said, look, take him home and see how you go. He was 5 months old. He's now 6 and in perfect health. But that was where our feeding journey began. He was our first dog. And we would go to Pet Barn and buy food, and a lot of it he wasn't eating. So I thought, well, stuff this. I'll make him some food. We'd make him, your standard chicken and throw some veggies in, and then that grew. He loved it, and it was soft. He could eat it, and then he just started to get better. We just noticed he was slowly, day by day, getting better. He was getting healthier and happier, and he was smiling again. His fur started growing back, and we took him in for his checkups, and they were really happy with his progress. They more or less just said, keep doing what you're doing. And all we were doing was loving and caring for him and looking after him the way we would ourselves. And so we didn't change a thing. The feeding became the norm in our home, and I got really into it, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing it right. So we did some more, digging and more research and improved the meals for him at home. And then lockdown happened and COVID happened, and we were at home, and then we're handing out food to some of the local dogs around here, and they were enjoying it and they were liking it, and it was good. And then sort of had a light bulb moment where I was like, all right, we're going to do this. Larry's Lunch was born from there. We already had the foundation of knowing that there was a handful of dogs that liked the food. We had an understanding of what it meant to us. We had an understanding of what we wanted to do, what our mission statement was. So we took it one step further. We hired an animal nutritionist, Ruth Hatton. She came on board, and we really got granular with the meals. We made sure they were complete, they were whole, they were balanced. We made sure we had everything in order. We did it right. And then slowly from there we grew, and Larry's recovery just continued to get better. His body shape was great. We're getting regular blood tests. All of his blood tests were coming back in the perfect range, all of them. His teeth are in perfect, well, what's left of his teeth are
yeah.
in perfect condition. And so we thought, why not? We wanted to give this a go. And, we've fed so many dogs now. We're Australia wide, and we've taken our story and shared it with others. And we know there are so many other people out there that want to feed their dog, the right way. And so yeah, that's where it all began. It began with Larry being injured and knowing that, we needed to keep the nutritional value in his meal there at all times. And it was great. It was it kept us whole as a family. And Laura and I were cooking, and Larry was there, and we were going to the markets. And, it was really a wholesome time for us. It was a bonding time. We were in lockdown in Melbourne. It was a lot longer than anywhere else in the world. So we had a lot of time on our hands. And, that was where it was all born.
Beautiful. Now, you've got a background in markets and sourcing fresh produce, fresh meats. You're somewhat of an expert. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I grew up working in the whole fresh food markets. We have some family friends that are in the seafood caper. So growing up, I naturally, you know, went and worked for the family and did that whole thing, but got stuck there for many, 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 many years. And I learned a lot in that time of my life. And from wholesale sourcing to actually doing the purchasing for the company, being involved from the ground up, from the delivery driving to the cutting of the products to the storage of the products to the whole lot. I ended up spending a lot of time in that industry that I developed a skill for, sourcing, smelling, understanding, and nurturing the right products, which takes a lot of work and talent. And you've got to build such strong relationships with your suppliers because you don't know what you're buying. And this is another thing too. There are so many people out there purchasing stuff for their dogs, but it's also quite scary to think about the people that are trying and they're not getting what they think they're getting. And you can walk into a market and you can ask for, hey, I'm feeding my dog, and you get the wrong butcher, and they'll give you some absolute garbage that's been laying at the back because it's for dogs. So, I've got the experience in that. I would be at the market at 4 a.m. every morning doing purchasing for, the seafood company. So, I was handling, raw products, fresh products, and dealing with, the importation of some of them, or, the exportation of some of them, or the local buying, or, and more importantly, building relationships with the storeholders and the owners of the other businesses. And it's just something that is in my DNA, and it's never left me. And I still to this day, Sherry, feel so at home and excited. And when I get to the markets every Tuesday morning to purchase for Larry's lunch, and I can't tell you, how much that means to me to be there and know that, it's deep seated in me. It's not something that I'm doing to earn a crust or because I have to. Like, I thoroughly enjoy being around purchasing my products that I'm going to feed the dogs, knowing when a customer calls, a customer reaches out, customer has an inquiry, I can give that confidence back to the customer knowing, hey, there's no guessing here. I was there. I purchased it. I saw it with my own eyes. I know what's in that bowl. And that to me is something I never want to lose with what we're doing here at Larry's Lunch. It's what I watched my family do with their businesses. And it's something that resonated with me, and hasn't left me, is that it's a passion. It's deep seated in me that I want to continue doing something I love, and watching that happen for myself has been unreal. And I love it. And I really, really do. And I feel so great that I can help other dogs in a way that is genuine.
Absolutely. So, would you have some tips for pet parents if they're looking to go to their local butcher or they're going to their local markets and looking to choose the healthiest ingredient option? Are there some basic tips for them that will
Yeah.
sort of get them
Yeah.
started?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We're actually doing a couple of educational videos on that now. I posted one yesterday on my Instagram story, so for anyone listening, feel free to jump on and have a watch. And yeah, there is a lot, and I'm breaking these videos up into 3 or 4 different videos on our Instagram to make it simple for people. But essentially, you want to make sure your protein bases are balanced. It's not just about buying chicken mince or beef mince and thinking you've done it all, and that's a great start. But if you want to get granular with it, there needs to be balance. You need to have, a good blend of mince. Typically speaking, you want to have a bit of fat in the mince. So I typically like to go for an 80-20 blend on the mince, 80% being lean mince and 20% fat. I like to chuck in about 10% liver, 10% or, heart, 10% organs. So you need to get that blend and that base right. It's not just about mince. And then you're adding in your veggie component from there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, in terms of fruit and veg, do you have any particular favourites there that you really love in terms of the nutrients,
Ooh.
in terms of the flavours? What are your favourites?
Yeah. Look, my personal favourites are zucchinis. I mean, I personally love to eat them myself, and the fact that they're just full of, a carrot's vitamin A, full of vitamin A. Cauliflower, I love using cauliflower. It's such a rich, rich in nutrients. It's so great, and it cooks well too, because I lightly cook all of our food, and it holds well, and has a great water component. And same with celery. Celery's great.
Mm,
It's great for hydration. Kale is awesome. What else do I have? Sweet potato, again, vitamin A. But they're my go-tos. I would say carrot, sweet potato, kale, zucchini, cauliflower, cabbage. We use cabbage in our fish dish. Turnips are good. And they're my main go-to veggies. And a lot of them are full of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K, full of nutrients. They're easy to digest. And, there's no toxins in them. Apples, I use apples, but you have to proceed with caution. You need to make sure you're removing, the core. There are cyanide components in the apple as well, the apple pips and core. So, yeah, there are a few out there that I could recommend, but they come with terms and conditions. And what I
yeah,
mean by that is, you have to be, super careful, but, staying away from certain things as well. So that's the confusing part. Dogs can't eat every fruit or every vegetable.
that's
And
right.
this is another thing people need to understand as well, that let's not get carried away. So I like to make it easy and simple and just put the basic ones out there and stick with those. Get your dog started on those first. Get yourself really, really in the headspace of understanding how to navigate a basic bowl. And then from there, you can start looking into your berries again. I don't want to just say berries, because some berries are toxic. And, there are some that are great. So you've got to, start small. And I think there's nothing wrong with just a basic beef bowl with some carrots, some zucchini, some celery, a bit of liver, bit of heart. Mix it in there. You can put some spirulina in. Psyllium husk, great for fiber. Help. Your omega-6 3 oils. It's so easy, and you can buy it in bulk. We also did a price comparison Instagram reel, and the reality is, you can, for the same price you're paying for kibble now, you can, and I have proven that you can go and buy fresh food.
I saw that video actually. That was a really, really good one. I think that will open a lot of people's eyes.
Well, it can be done. I've been saying it for years.
Yeah,
I've been saying it for years. You can do it. You can do it, and it's a bit of work, yeah, sure, but aren't our dogs worth it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think every dog owner should think the same way.
Absolutely. Well, maybe we can move that along. I think we might need to get you back on again and talk about some different
Love
topics.
to.
Do a few
Anytime.
deep dives. Talk about different ingredients. Maybe even talk about
Absolutely.
some of your customer stories. Some of the feedback you've
Love
got.
to. Love to. Love to.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, great. Good. Happy to run through a couple of recipes. Happy to share some success stories. Happy to share some not so success stories as well. I think it's always important for people to hear um, things that can go wrong. And, again, they're not spoken about enough. Fresh feeding is great, but there are risks involved as well. There's risks involved with everything, and you need to be aware of that. And I think educating people the right way is super important. Just putting something on a pedestal and making it the be all end all. I think it's important to have the correct narrative and give people a chance to see things for what they really are. And the only way to do that is to reveal the complete, the story. And so there's lots to chat about. I think I'm more than happy to jump back on at any time, and we can talk recipes and ideas and help your dog parents.
Sounds great. Now, for anyone in Melbourne, you do home deliver, I understand. They don't have to do any of the work themselves. If they're time
No,
poor, they can
no.
literally order from you complete, balanced, ready to go meals, have them delivered to their door. So, what's the best way to find you if they want to get in contact, they want to place an order?
That's correct. So we are Australia wide. We deliver to your door. There is a dog calculator on our website, larryslunch.com.au. You pop all your dog's details in. At the end, it'll give you some recommendations on some meal plans for your dog based on what you enter, energy levels, age, weight, etc., etc. And then you hit submit, and it shows up at your door. 5 proteins to pick from: beef, lamb, chicken, turkey, fish. You can have all 5. You can pick 1. You can pick 2. Up to you. And yes, it's portioned, lightly cooked, ready to go, all fresh, no long shelf life, kept in the freezer. You pull it out, you pop it in the microwave, if you want to warm it up, if you want to keep it fresh, defrost it on the sink and they can eat it cold, as my boys love to do. So it's nice and easy. We take all the guesswork out of it for you. There's always someone on the other end of the phone if you need to have a chat, and that's super important to us for our customers to know that we're here to help. But larryslunch.com.au for anyone on your socials. Feel free to use the discount code Larry25 and they'll receive 25% off their first box.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And thanks so much for coming on. We
Always.
could talk all day.
Oh, yeah, we could. Thank you for having me. Let's keep in touch, and I wish you all the best, Sherry.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Thanks again, Aaron.
Thanks, Al. Take care.